let's do black person. Does this question become racist? Like if you were to answer, I'd rather pick a bear over a black person.
Is it a black girl? Because I'd pick the black girl. Absolutely.
No, it's just a random black person. So it could be.
It doesn't matter their race. If it is a man, I will choose the bear.
So
if it
it's
is a woman,
sexist.
No.
It is.
But
you can say that.
Wait,
you
but
can
hold
say
on.
that if
But
you want.
so
Because a
hold on.
woman.
It is.
But so let's say somebody.
It's not.
Let's say somebody picked the bear over black person. Is it racist?
No.
It's,
It is. I'm black.
no, but so hold on.
I'm black.
But is it racist?
That's not off of my experience. I don't feel that way, and I'm not part of the POC community.
Here. Let me explain it a little bit. So let's say somebody.
I got a better way to.
Let me just ask it, and then I'll pass it to you, Andrew. So.
I think that would be prejudice more than racist.
It's semantics. That's semantics. It's same shit.
Okay,
it's different.
So let's say
actually.
no. So somebody, let's say
Two different words.
A white girl had 3 bad experiences with 3 different black men, and for this reason, she doesn't want to. She'd pick the bear over the black man. Is it racist? Because of her past experiences with black men. And she says, I don't care, even if, because you said earlier, even if it's a 1% chance, I still pick the bear over the man.
But it was still a man that she picked versus.
What? Hold on.
I mean, it was still a bear that.
Okay, she had 2 bad experiences with a black man and 2 bad experiences with a black woman. And collectively, she's deciding, I pick the bear over the black person because I've had prior bad experiences with black people. Is it racist?
No, I think it would be racist if it was a white man versus a black man. If
Wait,
those,
that
if
don't
that
make
was
no-
wait,
oh my
if
God.
we're talking about race here, that would be a more
but
parallel
the-
situation.
Because it's a man?
No, but
if
it's
you
a
put
black
2
person.
people, no, if you put 2 people in a forest, if we're saying instead, if we swapped out the bear, if we wanted to make this really even, it would be racist if it was a white man in the forest versus a black man in the forest. And she said she picked the white over that for that reason, for that logic. But still picking a bear over a man,
No, it's not a man. It's a black person.
Well,
You said black man.
A black person.
No,
I think the question you're trying to ask is if we took your logic and applied that to other things, it would make no damn sense. So back to what I was saying real quick. I just think that it just wouldn't make no sense. What's being shown is, ladies and gentlemen, because I can't convince nobody here, people out there in YouTube, StreamYard land, this is why men are leaving, because women are on board with each other despite logic and science. It's all about women. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to have any logic. It's women overall. And women who feel like that are not making it better for other women coming up. Because men want to be with women, despite what it looks like, despite all the statistics. We do love you. We do want to be with you. But if you have this mentality, it's going to make men remove themselves from you in all areas. And I hate to bust your bubble, ladies. You need us.
Excuse me?
You do need us. You do need
There
us.
is a male loneliness epidemic that's going on, but that is
Same
not.
with females.
Yeah, women
over-
But men are violent when they're incels.
Yes, women over, like, you can pull up the exact statistic because it is somewhere.
I have it in front of me, but
Yeah.
the female loneliness epidemic is almost on par with the male. They report being lonely at almost the exact same rates.
People are lonely.
Yes, but what I'm saying is women who are over a certain age, who are childless, who are not in a relationship, report to have it's on the internet. I'm sure, I don't have my phone, so I can't look up the exact thing, but I'm sure someone else
They report
can.
having heavier amounts of mental health issues. They report having heavier amounts of dissatisfaction. They report having heavier amounts.
I think we're reading very different surveys.
Well, I don't think so. What you're talking about is an article. What I'm talking about is the actual data, which is backing this up, not an article, which then mints the
talking
data.
about a survey.
But this isn't just for women, right? This is men as well. When they get in their 30s or 40s and they're childless or don't have a family, they also report much higher dissatisfaction rates, higher frames of mental illness. They make less money. They have less incentives. They have less motivations. Basically, people need each other, right? That's the general motivation. If you were to look at this, though, I'd have to ask you this. I was listening to what you were saying, and I thought it made sense. But you said the thing that validates it is experience, and because it's experience, it's not really sexist. The thing that gets me with that is like, what if an employer was a man and he didn't want to ever hire women because he'd had really bad experiences with them? That couldn't be sexist, right? By that same logic, could it? Hang on, let her answer. That couldn't be sexist.
What were
right?
the experiences? Were all of the women in his life
They
raping
made false,
him?
let's say that
Because-
several of them made false allegations, and several of them underperformed, and several of them but he had nothing but negative experiences with them. And since that is what informed him in his hiring practices, and that was his experience, isn't he then justified in not hiring them? And wouldn't it not be sexist then because it's based on experience?
So I'm going to have two parts, and I would like if everyone could allow me to finish all the
Sure.
way before interrupting. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
What I would say about that is it is sexist because we're talking about pay, and underperforming is not the same as being essayed. As someone
Well,
who
we're not talking about pay.
yeah.
We're just talking about hiring. them.
Hiring.
Yeah,
If you're hiring someone, you're hiring them to pay them for a job that you're hiring them for.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with your relationship. You don't have to date them. You don't have to spend time with them.
You don't have to date the
You
man
don't
in the
have
forest.
to. You don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything with
Yeah.
the man in the forest.
But aren't you saying that they would be skeptical going into hiring
No, I'm
women?
saying-
Why
what I'm
wouldn't we
saying
be
is
skeptical
it's the
going
same-
into that?
I'm
But-
just telling you it's the same logic. That's all. It's the same logic applied.
So what I'm saying though is from personal experience, what I was explaining from personal experience as someone who has been essayed, I would rather take my own life than have that happen again. And
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
understand that.
saying is there is nothing worse for me, in my opinion. This is my opinion. There is nothing that someone can do worse to you than that.
I'm not disputing any of that.
So what I'm saying is underperforming and having the worst thing done to you cannot even be equated in this situation.
Okay, wait. Let's back up though, because I understand exactly what you're saying. It makes total sense to me. This is the most horrific thing you could ever think of, and so you're going to select against that thing because this thing happening to you again, you'd rather anything else, including getting eaten by a bear, happen than the thing. I completely understand that. The question is not whether or not SA is really, really bad and you had a traumatic experience with it, though. The question is that it's sexist regardless of how it's informed? You said, no, it's not sexist because that is my experience. And it's like, okay, then if it's not sexist because it's your experience, then a man who was falsely accused of SA in his hiring practices, let's say, would be completely justified never hiring a woman again by the
Okay,
same
yeah.
logic because he
But
says
by
this is
that,
the worst
not
thing. He can
underperforming.
hang on. I'm almost done. I just let you finish. He could use the same logic. He could say, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Nothing worse. I can never imagine anything worse than this. I'd rather anything happen than this again. So he refuses to hire a woman that's totally justified based on his experience. The same logic back to you.
Yes. If that
Yes.
is the situation, initially you said underperforming and you listed a
So
couple
then it's
of other
not
things.
sexist.
Yes.
So then he's not being sexist.
If we're
right?
talking about that, then yeah, that wouldn't be sexist.
Yeah, right. So
If
then
we're- yeah.
any man who's ever had a false allegation against him, right, and then refuses to hire women after that because of that false allegation, you think that's totally valid.
I think that's valid. Yes. Why put
And
yourself
so,
in that
and it's
situation?
not sexist, right?
Yeah. Don't put
Okay,
yourself in
well
that situation.
then
That's
if
fine.
I gave you a list of men who that's happened to, right? I could name a couple, but the thing is, the point is that if I gave you a list of like Fortune 500 company executive CEOs who said that they want to advocate a policy that no more women get hired by their company because such a thing did happen to them.
Are they
you
working
would
with those
never
women,
say
though?
that was sexist, right?
Well, that's different if they're CEOs and they're completely detached from ever interacting with any of those women. I said it wouldn't be sexist for them to not want to work with those women.
No, that's not what you said.
But have those
That's not
when
what you
I'm
just
thinking
changed
I'm
the
thinking
whole
of like a
goalpost
restaurant
now.
owner. I'm thinking of, someone who has to have someone they're hiring women and those women are directly working with them. That's what I envisioned when you said women work for them and hiring women, and because they're interacting with them and they don't want that.
I would assume that based on what you told me your experience is, being anywhere near a situation which could potentially lead to that, which is what we're talking about, spawning into a forest with a random man or a random bear, right? Just the fact you said if it's even 1% that you would not choose that, The CEO of the company is saying the same thing. If it's even 1%, even though I'm detached from these people, I'm definitely not going to hire them. It's the same exact logic. Same.
No, because if you're the CEO, there is not even a 1% chance that you're going to interact with those people. You're not going
No,
down and
you said
hanging
if
out
it's
with them.
even, meaning if it was
Yes.
less than that, you still wouldn't take it. You said if it's
Yes,
anything,
yes,
if it's
you're
any
not-
percentile,
what
if there's any
CEO
chance.
is going
So
and
here, I'm going to
interacting
prove it
with
to you.
them?
I'll prove it to you. Do you think, statistically, that a woman can accuse you of SA easier if you hire them or if you don't hire them?
If Jeff
if
Bezos hired me and then I accused him of that after never meeting him, I think it would be just as invalid if I was not hired by him. Actually, I think it would be more invalid because then it's like
Yeah, but
no
the
paper
whole
trail.
point here is the disassociation. The idea here is this. It's not whether or not the chances would be unlikely for both, just which thing there'd be a higher chance for.
I don't
In this
see
case,
any
of course, the
possibility.
chance would be higher that if a woman doesn't in any way or any capacity have anything to do with your company or you, her chance of accusing you of SA significantly go down versus her being closer to you. So if that's the case, same logic as if there was any percentage at all that this could ever happen to me, I'm choosing the bear. And that's totally appropriate and not sexist. And the reason it's not sexist is because it comes from a place of experience. That would be the same thing for a CEO.
Can I chime in? So to be sexist, to be
I would
racist.
like her to just finish real quick. We're almost done. Almost done with the exchange. I would just like to finish it real quick. Can you speak to that real quick? Because it's the same logic. That's why I don't understand.
I think that it's not the same logic only for the reason that you are physically in the company of one and the CEO is not physically in the company or physically in danger of being in a compromising position with one of their 12,000, 60,000 employees, whatever crazy number they
But you said
have.
if there's any percentage,
Yes, but there wouldn't be a percentage if they never interacted with them.
You would never do it.
They would
So
never interact with
So
them.
Brian
I'm
asked you this. He asked you.
confused.
He said, if the chances were, and he gave you a low say. He said, if there's any chance, if it's even 1%, if it's less than that, there's any chance at all that this could happen to you, then no, you're not doing it and you're picking the bear because this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. If the CEO was falsely accused, okay, if he was falsely accused even once, and then says, I'll never hire a woman again, just because there could be a chance, and this is the worst thing that's ever happened. It's the same thing you just said.
Okay, well, if we're going by that logic, then sure, he doesn't have to hire any woman on for the company. With the bear situation, I said that even if it was 1% chance, I would choose dying and not getting SA'd over that 1% chance. My punishment or my penalty for taking that is death. His penalty for not hiring any woman is probably getting boycotted. So yeah, you can do anything you want technically. We're all born with free will. But
Hold on, I do
that's
have to
your
let a couple
penalty.
things come through here. Burmese mountain